So this next question coming up here, the question sentence is always what we want to focus on. And it says, what is the height? That's all it says. What is the height? So my party people, as we get started on this question, we have to understand that sometimes the question gives you the math, sometimes it doesn't. The question here, it doesn't exactly tell us what math we need to do, but it does leave a huge hint. The hint says height. Everybody, when we're talking about length or width or height or a side length, isn't it fair to say that we're discussing a shape? Isn't it fair to say that we're talking about a shape? Yeah, absolutely. So when we check this out here, we see that it says a triangular lot has an area of 54 square meters and a base of 12 meters. Okay, sounds good. So when we think about height, area, base of a triangle, everybody, just you tell me, isn't there a formula that we can apply in this problem that directly relates to the height, the base, and the area of a triangle? Absolutely. Absolutely is. And so what that formula is going to be, let's go ahead and write that down. The area of a triangle is going to be defined as multiplying the base and height. And then the results we are going to divide by 2. Otherwise known as base times height divided by 2, or half of the base times height. So with that, everybody, what we're going to do now is we're going to plug in the numbers that we have. And this right here, pay attention. If you got lost on this problem, this is where we're going to be able to find that success. Because what we're going to do is plug into the right places. Everybody, right before 54m squared or 54 meters squared, what is that word? Say it out loud, type it into the chat box. What is that word? It says area. Perfect. So what that means is I'm not going to replace 54 over here or over here. It's going to be right there, the area, where the area belongs, and that's going to be 54. Next up, we see that it gives us a base of 12. So I'm going to replace the base exactly as I see it with 12 times h for the height, because again, that's what I'm looking for, and then I'll place the 2 right there. Before I continue, is anybody a little anxious about trying to solve an equation that has a fraction in it? Is anybody anxious about that? Yeah, and if you are anxious, again, yeah, you have every right to feel it. But remember, when it comes to practice and patience and really looking for ways to really exert that confidence, here's one thing I invite you to see. When it comes to fractions, there's that one S word that we can sometimes do. We can sometimes simplify. Everybody, do 12 and 2 share a factor? Do they share something that we can factor out or simplify with? Absolutely. What number can we divide out of 12 and 2? We can divide 2 out. We can divide the 2 out. And when we do that, 12 divided by 2, that's going to be 6. 2 divided by 2, that's going to be 1. So really, everybody, what this is it's not so scary. We have 54 equals 6 times h. That 1 that we see, dividing by 1 is just going to leave it as is. So we don't even need to write that thing. We have 54 equals 6h. Everybody, because this is multiplication happening between 6 and h, what operation are we going to do to both sides? We're going to divide, absolutely. And look at how much faster this makes the problem. We're going to divide by 6 on the right and the left. It cancels out on the right. And everybody, what is 54 divided by 6? And that's going to be 9. Absolutely. So we have h for the height equals 9 meters. So again, that's one way to solve it. Now, let's make the assumption. So let's turn our attention back over here. Let's make the assumption that, hey, maybe we didn't see that simplification. Maybe it wasn't there. Okay, no worries. Here's how we would handle it. What you're going to do is you want to get rid of that 2 and then get rid of the 12. You can get rid of the 12, then the 2. It's really up to you. It really doesn't matter which way you go. But let me show you what happens when we do get rid of it. Everybody, what is the opposite? What is the opposite of dividing by 2? The opposite of dividing by 2 is going to be simply multiplying by 2. Exactly. So once we do that, check things out here. We're going to multiply by 2 on the right and on the left, and look at it cancel out on the right, leaving us with 2 times 54, which is 108. 108 equals 12 times h. And when we take the last step, everybody, the last step being dividing by 12 on both sides, everybody, what's 108 divided by 12? What's that going to be? That's still going to be 9. Exactly. Because it cancels out right over here on the right side. And then 108 divided by 12 is 9. And there we are, everybody. Those are 2 different ways to do the same exact problem. And again, it really has to do with, 1, your ability to plug numbers and values into the right places. And then number 2, understanding how to manipulate the expressions or equations or whatever you're working with to get that final result. So again, a 2-part, a 2-phaser when it comes to word problems, and hopefully we grew just a little bit after this one here. All right, next problem up. So when we're tackling any problem at all, remember, the goal is always the most important part because it's going to really direct us on what we do with the information. So first things first, if the sales tax is that amount or that percent, we don't care about that. What I care about is right here where it says, what is the total price? That's what I care about. So when we want to find the total price, that's going to be, hey, what are we paying at the end? Or if there's multiple items, add them together. In this case, though, we see that it says a set of cookware costs $95 and the sales tax is 4%. We want to know the total price. Here's how we'll get there. The way that we'll get the total price is we're going to begin with that original amount, that $95. And we're going to add, because again, tax is adding on top. We pay more tax. So we will add the amount of the tax, and that's going to give us the total price right there. That's where it comes into play. So with that said, let's get after it. We're going to find the amount of the tax by calculating the percent of the tax multiplied by that $95. That's going to give us, again, the amount of the tax. And once we find that amount of tax, we plug it in and we're done. Again, I'm going to say this again and again. When it comes to your percent formula, that percent that you apply is the result that you get. That's the consistency I've always been talking about here. So here we go, everybody. We'll plug in our tax percent, which is 4%. Then we convert it into a decimal. Always move it twice to the left. 1, 2. There's a 0 right there. So we have 0.04 multiplied by $95. And let's get to work. Here we go. 95 multiplied by 0.04. 5 times 4 is 20. Carry the 2. 9 times 4 is 36. 36 carry the 2 is 38. So before we continue, don't forget to bring the decimal places back. That's 2 right there. 1, 2. So the amount of the tax, everyone, the amount of the tax, specifically the tax, is $3.80. So again, that's the amount of the tax. That is not going to be the correct answer C. That's not it. The way we get the correct final answer is we will plug in, let me just move this out of the way ever so slightly. We are going to plug in that $3.80 where it belongs, right over here. And now we're done. $95 plus $3.80. That'll be $98.80. And there we are. The correct answer here, everybody, will be answer choice D. Again, taxes, if we're trying to find that final amount, a tax is added to that original amount to get the final.